Hi guys, it took me longer than expected to finish with the Cycling slave cylinders project and make this video, but now that everything is almost ready, let me present you the Cycling slave cylinders range and discuss a bit more about this project and its future developments. Before discussing about the slave cylinders and dive deep into the different options you have for customization to match your riding style, I'd like to give you the greater picture about this project. So my goal is to eventually develop a complete braking system optimized for bike trials while introducing some ideas I have about innovations that can possibly improve the performance of our brakes. Last year I developed and presented to you the cycling brake pads and rosins, and now the introduction of the slave cylinders completes the parts of the braking system that comes in contact with the rims. Having said that, you can foresee some of the future cycling projects. If you want to stay tuned with the latest experiments I do and the development of the upcoming cycling projects, you can follow our social media accounts and keep an eye on our stories, as I share hints there months before I post a relevant video here. At that point I have to mention that the cycling brake pads are not available lately, as I'm working on some developments on their production method, but I'll let you know more about it in a future video. So let's get back to the main topic of this video and discuss about the different versions of the cycling slave cylinders you can choose from and about the different customization options you can have in order to make your brakes fit your riding style. To begin with, I have to underline that the cycling slave cylinders have been designed to perform as smoothly and as snappy as possible, regardless the version you may choose to get. However, as I've already mentioned, you can have different slave cylinders that you can choose from and options to customize your brakes. The different options you can have can be divided into performance and weight-saving customizations. Performance-wise, you can choose between different piston materials and springs with different stiffness. More specifically, you can get slave cylinders with pistons made out of 7075 T6 aluminum alloy or out of PET-P, which is an engineering plastic. Generally, I think that aluminum pistons give a bit more stiff feeling on the lever, while the plastic pistons feel a bit more giving. But this is just my personal opinion, and it will be better to feel the difference for yourself and decide which one is better for your style of riding. Also, the second customization has to do with the different springs that you can choose from. So the cycling slave cylinders can come with springs that are almost regular or a bit harder than the ones that you have been used to. Generally, the harder springs make the pistons of the slave cylinders having a bit snappy return, but you may feel the difference in the force you need to apply to start moving the lever. But again, this is just a personal observation, and you may not feel any significant difference in the force that is required to start moving the lever. Apart from these performance customizations, there is an additional weight saving option you can choose and save some grams if you are an advocate of marginal gains. So if you want to save a bit more than 6 grams per pair, you can choose to get the rest of the parts that complete the assembly of the slave cylinders to be made out of grade 5 titanium instead of 316 stainless steel. At this point I have to mention that you can get the slave cylinders with the titanium hardware either during the initial purchase of the slave cylinders or as an upgrade kit whenever you decide that this upgrade is worth it. So from what we've discussed up to now, you can see that there are 8 different combinations of parts to customize the cycling slave cylinders, and I'm pretty sure that you can find the one that best fits your riding style. But I'm quite curious about your possible preferences and which combination you would go for. So please let me know in the comments below about the version of the cycling slave cylinders you would prefer, as well as about your opinion on the range of the different versions that you can choose from. Next, I'd like to discuss with you about the rest of the cycling products that are coming to support the release of the slave cylinders. First of all, I've designed and manufactured a special tool for the disassembly and assembly of the piston in case that you want to replace the springs with different ones, or in case that you want to take everything apart for maintenance purposes. Additionally, I've manufactured the fittings that you need in order to bleed the slave cylinders, and also I've managed to assemble a really high quality bleeding kit similar to the one I'm using for as long as I bleed my own brakes, and you may have seen it in many of my previous videos. You have the option to get just the fitting for these slave cylinders, the fitting with a single syringe, or the full bleeding kit with 2 syringes and fittings for both the slave cylinders and your lever. Keep in mind that the fitting for the levers has an M6 threaded connection, and so please check your levers before you get one. Also, the seals on these syringes have been tested with water and water-based brake fluids as well as with mineral oil. Moreover, I've developed a special seal grease for the cycling slave cylinders, and I strongly recommend you to get it and use it during the maintenance of your slave cylinders, as it makes them perform as perfectly as possible. This is a grease that is based on the silicoleum grease, but it has been enhanced with the addition of tungsten disulfide, which has an incredibly low coefficient of friction and makes this seal grease the best one you can get for this application. It has to be mentioned that if you get the cycling slave cylinders, They'll come already assembled with this grease, and so you will be able to feel the best possible performance right out of the box. Anyway, we'll discuss about the special grease as well as the assembly and maintenance of the X-Cycling slave cylinders in a future video, as I don't want to get into more technical details today. The last thing that I want to discuss with you, but we are also going to get in more detail in the future, is about the distribution of the X-Cycling slave cylinders. Similar to the rest of the X-Cycling products, the slave cylinders are going to be distributed directly via eshop at buycave.eu. This ensures that they will get the highest quality at the best possible prices. Also, this ensures that we can provide you with the best customer support, as we are directly connected with you once you make a purchase, and you can contact us for any issue you may face while using our products. Also, it has to be mentioned that the X-Cycling slave cylinders, similarly to any of our products, are being produced in very small batches to ensure the highest possible quality and to allow for rapid improvements in case that your needs change and we have to adapt our products to your needs. More specifically, the first batch of the X-Cycling slave cylinders will be a limited edition of 15 hand polished pairs, and after that the manufacturing of the slave cylinders will be restricted to a couple to 4 pairs per week, as I want to ensure that each slave cylinder will get the love and care it deserves before you get it into your hands. If you want to learn more about the different versions of the X-Cycling slave cylinders and the different customization options you can have, as well as the rest of the products we discussed about in this video, you can check out the X-Cycling website and our eshop at buycave.eu. Also note that the X-Cycling slave cylinders are not yet available, but we are working hard to finish everything and get them released as soon as possible. In the meantime, and before they get released, feel free to ask anything you want to learn about this project by leaving a comment in the comment section below. Also, if you want to get a pair of these slave cylinders for free and before they get released, you can check out our social media accounts, as a giveaway has been recently announced. The only thing that you have to do is to leave a comment, tag a couple of your trials loving friends to the relevant post, and follow both the X-Cycling and the buycave.eu Instagram accounts. The winner of the giveaway will be randomly selected before the official release of the slave cylinders, which will be announced via our Instagram stories. That's it for today, guys, and I hope that this helped you understand a bit more about that project and the overall idea of the X-Cycling braking system. Feel free to ask anything else you want to know about the slave cylinders by leaving a comment in the comment section below, and keep an eye for the next video, as we are going to break them down even more and discuss about their maintenance protocol. Thanks so much for subscribing and watching, and make sure that you check out the giveaway that's currently running on Instagram. Bye!